So far we have seen how to use various conditional control structures and the loop control structures. So loop control structures can be used to repeat specific statements for certain number of times, or otherwise we can repeat the statements as long as the condition is true, right? But is there any way to break the loops or to skip certain iterations? So that is possible using the break and the continue keywords. So let's see how we can use break and continue with the for and the while loops. Break is used to terminate the loop. Say for example, if the condition is met, then I want to terminate the loop. I don't want to do the process. Then in that case, I can use the break statement. And continue is used to skip the current iteration alone. That's the difference between break and continue. Break is used to terminate the loop at that particular iteration itself, whereas continue is used to skip a particular iteration and you can proceed very well with the rest of the iterations. That's how we can use the break and continue keywords, either to terminate the loop or to skip specific iterations on the loop. So let's see how we can use the break statement, which is used to terminate the loop at a particular iteration. So I have a while loop with the expression, and these are the set of statements. So I have statements 1 to statement 5 part of the while loop, and statement 6 is out of the while loop, remember that. Here I am going to bring the break statement as part of the while loop. So whenever some condition is met, I want to execute a break statement. In that case, whenever the condition is satisfied and the break statement is executed, then what happens is at that particular iteration itself, the loop will be terminated. So if you observe here, on execution of the break statement, then all the statements that are placed as part of the while loop and the rest of the iterations also will be skipped, and then you are coming out of the while loop, and the statement 6 that is placed after the while loop will be executed. That's how break statement can be used to terminate a while loop at a particular iteration. On meeting a condition, you can terminate the while loop. Now let's see how we can use the continue statement to skip a particular iteration. So here again I have a while loop which is having 5 statements as part of the while loop, and 6th statement is placed after the while loop. Now I am going to bring in the continue statement. So whenever the continue statement is executed, that particular iteration alone is skipped. So if you observe, continue is executed, then again the control is moving upwards to the while, that is the condition will be tested and the next iteration would be executed. The statements that are placed after the continue, that statement 3, 4, 5, these 3 statements will not be executed after executing the continue statement. That's how we can use the continue to skip the statements that are placed after the continue statement in a particular iteration, and rest of the iterations will be continued as usual. So the difference between break and continue is, on execution of the break statement, the loop is terminated and the statements that are placed after the break would be executed. On execution of the continue statement, that particular iteration would be skipped and the control will be moved back to the beginning of the next iteration. That's how we can use break and continue. Break is to terminate the loop, whereas continue is used to skip a particular iteration. So now let's see an example where break and continue can be used. So let's first try to use break statement with the while. So here I am repeating the while loop to display the values from 0 to 10, and whenever the value of I reaches 5, then the break statement would be executed. So initially I value gets 0, then 0 is less than or equal to 10, the condition is evaluated to true, I value is incremented by 1, then I gets 1. Then the condition inside the while loop is if I equal to 5, 1 equal to 5 is false, so break will not be executed, then that value would be displayed. So 1 is displayed first, then 2, then 3, then 4, and then whenever I value gets 5, then the break is executed and no more values will be displayed because the while loop is terminated at that particular iteration itself. As a result of this code snippet, the output would be 1, 2, 3, 4, because when I value meets 5, then the statement will not be executed. Now let's see how we can use a continue. So this example illustrates how the continue can be used with the while loop. So here the same code snippet we are repeating here, but only changes we are using continue instead of the break statement. So here on execution of this code snippet, what happens is I value is first initialized to 0, then the condition is true, so I value is incremented by 1, and the condition with the if is 1 equal to 5, false. So the continue will not be executed and you are displaying the value of I. So 1 is displayed, then 2 is displayed, 3 is displayed, 4 is displayed, but when I gets 5, 5 equal to 5, the condition is true. So you are executing the continue, so the next print statement will not be executed. Further iterations will be continued as usual. So except the value of 5, the remaining values will be displayed. So I hope now you understand the difference between the break and continue. So now let's see how we can use the break statement to terminate the inner loop of the nested for loops. So here I have the nested for loops, and now let's see how we can use the break to terminate the inner loop. Whenever j value is equal to 300, then the break statement is executed. In that case, what happens is the inner loop alone would be terminated and the outer loop would be continuing as usual. Unlike the other programming languages like C, C++ and Java, Python supports the use of else keyword with the loops also. It can be used with both for loop and the while loop. And what is the purpose of using this else statement with the loops is on successful completion of the loops, if you want to execute any specific statements, then you can place them as part of the else block. So that on successful execution of the while or the for loop, the statements that are placed in the else block will be executed. So now let's see the general forms. So I just have taken the regular general forms for the for loop and the while loop. Now let's add the else keyword with them. So how we can use else with the for loop. So if you observe, after the for loop you just add the else statement and you just include the statements that you want to execute on successful completion of the for loop. And similarly with the while loop also, we can use the else keyword, and on successful completion of the while loop, whenever till the last iteration all the statements are executed, that means that the statements that are part of the else block will be executed. So that is how we can use the else with for and the while loops. So far in the last few videos and in this video, we have seen how Python supports various control structures. Initially, we have seen what is the use of the control structures in a programming language and how we can use the control structures to alter the sequential flow of execution. And later we have seen what are the various control structures that are supported by Python. So Python supports the conditional control structures and the loop control structures also. So we can use if, elif, then else keywords to support the conditional control structures. So conditional control structures basically allow us to select one of the possible ways of execution, whereas loop control structures are used to repeat certain statements for predefined number of times or as long as the condition is true. Now I hope you understand various control structures that can be used in Python. So by this video, it must be clear for all of you. So when to use the break or the continue to terminate or to skip specific iterations of the loops. Thank you for watching this video.